Good to see you, boys.
Whatever. Great to
Welcome to
see
Gray
you.
Pages season 3. We are making it happen.
Are we launching this the same time as Yellowstone or 1942 or whatever those shows are?
Yeah,
We competing with
it's the same.
Taylor? What's his name?
Sheridan. Yeah, we got this. We got this. That's not a threat.
Do we got this though? That's the question.
Because we've been, the reason why, well, just so y'all know, as we come to you today, we have been trying to do podcasts for roughly, I don't know, it feels like 2 years. We bought all new equipment to have 19 different angles on shots.
Well, hold on. You're not telling the story properly. Should we tell the actual story? The actual story
Don't
is
throw anybody under the bus.
the actual story is our equipment was someone else is using it somewhere.
It got
And
ganked.
Yeah, we don't know where and who has it. Someone's running a great podcast with our old equipment. That we felt.
But we're not going to act like it was demonic attack and that they don't want us to say anything anymore.
No, I think somebody's
But-
running a
but
good
if-
podcast.
If there is an underworld, a literal underworld, they're laughing their butts off right now with.
But we're practicing caring more about less about the things that were taken than the people
Less
that had to
about-
take them, right?
One of the complaints we had often was, why are you guys so far away from normal view, you and Hugh? So we talked to some friends, and Hugh and I know as much about AV, audio, visual, recording, podcasting, engineering, as my 7-year-old
I just
daughter.
learned how to put the do not disturb on this morning.
And it's never coming off.
So we reached out to some consultants and we're like, hey, what should we get? We're gonna spend a little money, not much, but we're gonna get something where we're both in view. We got John zooming in from Tampa. Let's make this thing a little more enjoyable for the listener. And we did it, and nothing works. Nothing we bought works. None of the cables work. How many times,
We've
John,
sat here
have we
4
sat?
hours.
Well, yeah, so I actually have a notebook here that I can't remember. It just says at the top, Gray Pages season 3. And I've had it on a Zoom call with you, and then I brought it when I visited and was in the room with you, and then I'm holding it today. And I don't know, it's been months since I wrote those words on
Yeah,
here.
but we sat down a month before that, before you were in person with us.
No, that's what I'm saying, because we got on a
Yeah.
Zoom call. But
We've had
the
we've
one
had friends here. We've had our friend Neil Cole here. We
Ready
had
to
our
roll.
friend Ranson Gavin Linderman here. We had Barkley
You remember
here.
that? You remember that day Jesus actually showed up in the flesh, and we weren't able to get him on the podcast.
Yeah, so basically, welcome to the season, and we're closing it out. You guys have missed all the great conversations we've had already. But by the way, I think it's wrong to say the equipment didn't work. The equipment works. Like the cameras work, the cords work,
Everything
things
works.
It's all good equipment. It's just making it work for a recording when I'm zooming in. It's like we got a little bit of work to do yet. But
But here's
we
what
are.
I
Like,
want
yo,
to say.
just
I want
close
to
up.
turn this. I want to turn this darkness into light.
There we go.
Is the reality of I've been having this conversation with multiple people lately, and let me think of, because I'm frustrated and I want to
Noticed.
own, and I want to talk about the reality of brave cities. And the reality is this pursuit is not for the faint of heart. I don't know if this is a metaphor we're living in. I don't know if this is just our own ignorance on display.
Mhm.
I do know that this polished version of what some would call Christianity is not the thing that we want to walk in. It's not what we signed up for. It's not what captured our hearts decades ago. And so maybe this is just a
Nice
coincidence.
Nice segue.
Maybe this is just like we're stupid and we don't know how to run podcast stuff. And we need somebody out there in the ether to come help us.
But don't email us and tell us you can, because it won't work.
Yeah,
So,
come and do it. Come and do it. And then Tell us to walk in the room when it's done.
Yeah.
Don't ask us to sit here while you're working on it. But aside from that, I have been thinking about this a lot because we're launching a lot of new things right now in Alton, around the country, and potentially next month we're going.
Heading off to Belgium with an incredible young apostolic network out there. And then looks like we will be in Dublin working with another great network.
Can you get me on that trip? I want to go to Dublin, y'all.
We're thinking about just moving to Europe.
Over the break, we actually even saw that somebody was presenting the Brave Cities stuff in Singapore.
Yep.
And apparently there was a lot of people there. So we're trying to figure out who it was that was doing that presentation. We'd like to congratulate them.
You just saw like a snapshot with y'all stuff on the screen, right?
Somebody was there that loosely knows us and said, "Hey, your stuff's up on the screen," which made me excited. I like the idea of people using our stuff halfway across the world without feeling like they need to talk to us. That is not a problem for us at all. What I would say is this. I have a little bit of an angst inside of me right now. Maybe it's been there since I was born. That we try to shine up everything that we do. And we put on these conferences. I think Hugh and I went round and round yesterday about this. We put on these conferences and these gatherings and these events. I remember, man, I was on staff at believe it or not, in a past life, I was on staff at a mega church, and they called Sundays. When we'd have our little meeting getting ready for Sundays, they'd call it game day. We're getting ready for game day, and we have to outperform everyone else in the city. And look, I don't want to get into that. That's an old conversation. But even in what we're doing now, even in the circles that we run in and the brothers and sisters that we love so much, it still feels like there's an overemphasis on performative mission, performative community. And I would say just down to its core, performative movement, that we have to validate and prove everything we do. So I don't know if this podcast thing, if there's any good in it, if there's any light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm trying to turn it into something saying this stuff is hard and it's messy. And I don't think you ever come out of that. I don't think there's ever, I love that right now at the start of season 3 of our podcast, it's actually worse quality than season 1.
That's not true. That's not true though. Y'all
not all of them, but
we'd have half of Hugh driving in a car between states, and then you were like talking to us from an iPhone in the bathroom you were tiling or something. At least in the early days. And by the way, I love those. I'm like, yeah, it's gritty. We get back to it's real life out here. If we had to talk from the construction sites we were on or the different things we're doing, it's all good. And then if we have access to a good video, like we'll use it. Right. It's head in all circles.
What month we had over the break? We had some brave cities from all over the country come into Alton, and it was kind of, it wasn't promoted. It was just a hand invite, if you will, just to, what we just said, practitioners only. It was just people all struggling it out in their own little spots, and we were down here in the basement together for one session. Not in elegant spaces, but that was like a highlight of the year, was just getting actual practitioners who are all struggling together, but really amazing stories, amazing people. I'm hoping that this year we can get some more of those stories to you guys, so you can see it's not just a handful. There's really a lot of people doing this all over the place. So
yeah, there's stuff going on. We don't know what we're talking about today because we did, in fact, sit here for almost 2 hours again, seeing if we could get this thing launched. And over that 2-hour period, we forgot the topic that we even wanted to bring up. So we decided, let's just catch up. Let's talk about where we are. some of the works that we have going on, and get ready for potentially a third season.
Yeah, man.
Well, Heaven. John, anything crazy going on in your world in Tampa?
Dude, you have no idea. You have no idea. Things have been wild for me. And I do think maybe this is maybe some of the catching up with you guys, like sharing what's been going on here. And then I know you guys have got some projects spinning over there. But yeah, so I'll tell you a bit of what's been going on. So um you guys know, and I probably shared on here before, a lot of the, and even when Taylor and I first connected, like we were running a daytime drop-in center for the homeless. This is back in like 2000, and the main place we had was like 14, 15, and 16. We did one out of the underground's old space before that, kind of a modest little thing. And then we got our own building in 2014. We ran that for 3 years. It was kind of a, we can't get everyone a home, but it was a place for people to make themselves at home on a regular basis. And then that neighborhood, it's called Tampa Heights. When Tampa Heights now, you know it as like the place to go to the cool pubs and coffee shops, but it was like this historic black and brown poor community, lots of homelessness. But it's gentrified tremendously over the last 13 years or whatever. But we were at the very front end of that, and we ended up getting kind of run out of that neighborhood. And that's when we really leaned into kind of more of the social enterprise, decentralized version of what we were doing. So at that location, we had a shipping container we did bicycles in. That became Well Built Bikes. We were doing community garden stuff. We started putting gardens elsewhere. That became the Eden Project. We were doing, we had a little what we called a free market, a place for people to get groceries. And then we put that on wheels, inspired by Breaking Bad's mobile meth lab. Now we have a mobile unit refrigerator out 6 days a week sharing groceries. That's kind of the work we've been doing. But then when we were closing that place in 2016, there was an old drop-in center that had been closed while we were open, incidentally. But private funding had reopened it with a very, very large mental health agency here in Tampa. And it's been open. So it opened before we closed. Place for people to use the address, to do laundry, to take showers, to just get in out of the sun, get some AC, internet access. Very similar to what we were running, a little more clinical, but very similar to what we were running. And that's been open the last 9 years or so since we closed. So when I was closing, it was like grace of God. I was able to say, like, hey, good news, like bad news, we're closing. Good news, you can go there and get showers. You can go there, move your mailing address there. So it made it a lot easier for us to shut the doors on this place where we were getting run out of the neighborhood from. Since then, we've been building the bike shop, building the thing. We actually, by the way, I'll circle back to this, but we just had a food truck built and we picked it up this week, and they're over there wrapping it right now as we record. I'm super excited to get our with commercial kitchen food truck up and running. But anyway, so what ended up happening was in July, we start hearing from people on the streets and from churches, a lot of churches in the city that work with folks on the streets. Like people in the churches maybe have a meal or whatever. They have relationships with people who live on the streets who are going, hey, my medication goes to an address that I don't have access to anymore. I can't get showers anymore. I can't do laundry anymore. And basically what had happened was that place that Grace Point ran, which was known as the coffee shop. It wasn't a coffee. They just served coffee. It was a drop-in center. That had been running for all that time since we closed. They lost federal funds. They went through a big corporate merge with another like drug rehab thing in town. So there's a big conglomerate and a rebrand of what they're doing. And in the dust of all of the funding loss they just shut it, moved people out of those offices, and the doors were closed. So I drove over there, and the gates on the front were just covered in FedEx stickers. Like, sorry, we missed you. I mean, just wallpapered in FedEx stickers. And I was like, dude, this is everybody's address. And by the way, you're never going to open another one of these in our city, because Not in My Backyard is in every single neighborhood. So a bunch of us with some local churches got together and said we had access to one person that worked with Grace Point. This was like her baby. And so she had a key to the building. So we went into the building. They were still on the lease. They were actually technically going to violate or break their lease like 2 years early because they just stopped using it and they were going to stop paying rent. And we went in, met with her, met with a bunch of like local churches, and all of us just said, someone has to do something. We've got to keep this place open. And one of the guys there kind of talked it up, was like, I'll go start raising some money. Let's get this on. And we, by the way, had the wrong number up front. What we thought the rent was quite a bit higher. It's pretty substantial. But we over the last, that was in the late July. So August, September, we got on the phone with the landlord, said, can you hang tight? Like, we're going to get the money together. Can we take over this lease? And so we raised in those 2 months which I've never been able to do this, by the way. We raised about 130K, which is nowhere near enough, by the way, to run this thing as a proper operation. But it was enough that I felt like I could pay rent and we could stay alive for about 6 months. And so with 6 months of funding, I signed a 2-year lease. And it is up and running. And so we opened it last week, actually. So we spent the next October, I've been in there every day, just like redoing paneling, painting, doing the walls, like refreshing the space, getting furniture. It's super cool the way we laid everything out and getting connections to coffee. So we're having coffee around the clock, open the laundry back up. There's showers in there people are using. So as of like, this is our second week now, and we're open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then right now they're just finishing up because we record on Friday mornings. There's a breakfast that I recruited this other ministry that does a breakfast every Friday. They've been doing it at another location. They moved it here. And so that morning we have breakfast there, and we're inundated immediately. We're so in over our heads, but it's a super cool for me. It's a return to our roots. So now we have this like ecosystem built out that has like ways that we're meeting needs with people that need transportation and food and this and that. But that base, like house of hospitality for the poor thing, that's our origin story, like we're bringing back in. There is no business model to it. It's just expensive and hard, but I have a bunch of conversations going and a bunch of like funding opportunities and also just like some potential, because the building is actually 8,400 square feet and we're only using about 30% of it for the drop-in center. So the rest of the building, I'm trying to leverage with partners to like get a counselor to rent a little space and get someone to kind of like buy a membership, almost like a co-work, and like use some of the rest of the space with services that we're offering over there. But that has like been almost the whole break, like since we've been not doing, I mean, I've been like, it's been, and what's cool for me is like if you'd have asked me if I had bandwidth to take on anything, I'd be like, absolutely not. But then like when it felt like the call came and I said yes to it and we started leaning in, it's like all of a sudden, like I keep thinking of that like bread on the trails, like this must happen. And like everything is just laying itself out before us. Like things are just like, I'll give you an example and then I'll shut up. Last week we had a guy there that was like kind of, well, not kind of like mentally ill dude, and these are to be expected, but this guy was scary. He had a big pit bull with him and he started a fight. And so I got between him and the other person and walked him outside, said, you can't be in here. And I was asking him to leave the property and he wouldn't leave the property. And I was like, well, if I go out and try to physically get him off the property, this is like going to be a bad start for us, you know? And then I know like the way you do that is like get a cop to come trespass him or get him off the property. But I was like, I don't want to start that. I don't want to call the police. I don't want to have this address on record calling the police. And at the end of the day, I gathered the team and I talked through that tension I was having all day. Like I need to, but I don't want to. And like, but I'm putting the team at risk. And like, these people are going to leave. I think he's waiting on someone that he was fighting with. And I didn't know what to do. So I didn't do anything and it worked itself out. But then I gathered the team and I said, hey guys, like this is the tension that was in me. So if any of you, I said, what I would really ideally like is just to have a few cell phone numbers for people that do work with the department where we don't call 911. We don't call the non-emergency number, but like we do know officer so-and-so that can like swing by and just be a friend in uniform to go, hey, let me just come in and help be some muscle. Cause just the look of that, it has an effect. Right. And no one knows anyone. And of course I've been working more in the county area, so I know sheriff's department, but I don't know the TPD stuff. So the next morning I see 2 cop cars pull up out front and I'm like, oh boy. So I walk out front and it's just the 2 officers, 2 cars, they're partners, and they go, we're the cop. No prompting and nothing negative. They just said, we saw you were open again. We want to come introduce ourselves and give you our cell phone number in case you need anything. And just that kind of thing. And there's been one after the next, but I was like, this is crazy. You guys they're like, yeah, I just felt like we should know you. You should be able to get in touch with us. We work this neighborhood 4 days on, 4 days off. We'll get you the numbers of the other guys that work when we're off. And we just, and I was like,
Did you tell them what was going on? And
I did. I did. Cause I said, hey, yesterday I was like, basically, and I did, I said, you guys, this is like an affirmation of faith for me. Like this whole story is going to turn me into someone that's woo woo, man, because I'm like, the way things are laying out, it's just crazy. But I did tell them that. And I was like, look, this is like a faith thing for me. Like I'm super encouraging my faith right now. This is what happened yesterday. And I told them why I didn't want to call. And they were like, hey, don't hesitate to call them. But also, by the way, you're not wrong. If you just like hit us up and we're on, we could just swing by and like,
Yeah.
if we need to trust plus someone, but it will be kind of like less on the record. And they're like, yeah, we get it. And we want to help. And we're grateful you're here because this is a place we can bring people that are on the streets instead of like arrests. Like we don't want to arrest homeless people. And we could bring them here to kind of get them with their trespassing elsewhere. If they can come here and shower up and do laundry or have a place that they're welcome. Um, we love it. We were super grateful you guys are open again. Uh, so yeah, it's been incredible, man. It's been and like super invigorating. Like I'm like, oh, I'm back in like full on startup mode and like lots of those sleepless nights trying to solve problems and stuff. But it's been killer.
That's awesome. I love it. Just as we're starting season 3, I just like you just basically just shared the story of Brave City, how it happens, how it forms, how God initiates. Like so, I mean, super. If nobody had heard the other 2 seasons, this would give them a little inkling about what we're all on about. So super stoked that you've been that busy.
Yeah.
Taylor's been this busy.
Tell me what's been going on.
He's jacked up our next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, similar, man.
Hold
You
on,
know,
hold on. I'm sorry. I want you to jump in, but I want to reference a former season conversation to set this up.
good.
Because when the whole conversation around selling the post was happening, I remember having like a conversation where you guys were real discouraged about like the sale falling through and like the you were referencing I think the Abraham Isaac story and like the kind of and I think I said something to the effect of like there is a kind of you were like where's the ram in the bush or where's the alternative, and I was like it's the work, like you don't like you are given the alternative, and I think you were like that's not super encouraging, but there anyway I have been thinking about that as I've been watching y'all
Oh,
and
yeah.
remembering that conversation, and I almost want to like we got to clip it at some point with this story because like I'm like this is that. And anyway, tell that story, but I wanted to like do a little bit of a callback to that conversation to set that up.
Uh, Say a little bit more too. Like, so we talked about, because I don't remember that episode. I don't remember yesterday. So we
Yeah.
talked about Abraham and Isaac a little bit, kind of as a metaphor.
Yeah,
And
you were putting the sacrifice up. You were willing to do that. And you were
yeah,
like, we're willing to do that. But then like as the sale fell through and you were kind of like had really turned your eyes to this new work, but now you don't have the money to start it. And like we can't do it. And Hugh, I think in particular, I think you were both pretty like, but I think Hugh like is a little easier to read in terms of like I'm sad. Like I was just like it felt like one of our darker, not that we don't have a lot of dark conversations, but it felt like an emotionally hard one when we were having that conversation. And I actually remember this episode because when I said that, I almost felt bad for saying it because I could tell it was like kicking you a little bit where you're like, I was like, yeah, there is a ram. You get to keep going. You got more work to be done.
We
And you
said
were like, that's
work,
not what
work.
you remember
mm.
this?
Did we title that episode "The Work is the Ram"? Because that's a
I
good
think we
title.
might have.
I'm gonna see if I'll try to find it here while you talk.
But tell them about kind of there's lots of works going on right now. Like we're definitely not going into year 9. We're definitely not coasting. It feels as big and as wildly supernatural as it did when we started the first thing.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kind of the roller coaster or the ebb and flow of startup periods are not only indicative of Brave City work, but also you know they're kind of the heartbeat of the apostolic spirit. Is God gives the spirit gives the energy that you're around, the community that you're around, the guidance of the scriptures even gives these startup moments. And yeah, I don't know how this all happened, but we are definitely in kind of a new resurgence. If you read the book, we tie it a lot to Jesus's teaching in Luke 10. and how he gave this little insight into a very historical and celestial moment of sending out 72 people into 72 regions and telling them to bring peace, heal the sick, and cast out demons. And I would say we'll probably spend our lives, I'll spend my life trying to understand the depth of what he was really saying and how that those three pillars sort of hold up portions of a brave city. And maybe that is kind of the circular or the cycle of startup is you go in a season of peace and then you move into a season of healing and then you move into a season of dominion. And when I say dominion, I mean it in the most Jesus-y form of servanthood and lowliness. And I would even use the term weakness, but weakness in the sense of in our weakness, he is made strong. So servanthood, what was the other word? Lowliness and weakness. That form of dominion. So upside down dominion, where the powers that exist in our region are over our young people or over the poor, we take dominion over those powers and we offer a better city. And then we offer a better city to the ones who want to follow the king of the ecosystem, Jesus. So yeah, I think I'll set it up with that of saying that I think that the startup energy never stops. We never move on from being practitioners. And I'm just tired of it, man. I'm tired of leaders like you, John, not you, of course, and not Hugh, but like you guys thinking, when is this going to end? When do I get to kind of coast and move on? And it's like, no, the work is the ram. The work is the joy. That's when that stops, that's when, like, you know how we think of ideas like sell out, like he sold out. I don't think anybody ever intends to sell out. I don't think that's a natural leader's intention. But they get tired of the work and the struggle and the feeling of loss or failure, and so they want to move on into a season of more what might be seen as like consultancy, or I'm a teacher now and a theorist. I'm a connector. I'm a networker. I'm not necessarily I don't practice in that way, and then that moment starts to happen where it feels like, this isn't where I thought I would be in 30 years. I didn't think that I would not be practicing my faith or in seasons of startup or whatever anymore. And so that's what happened with us is we felt like we were kind of moving into a new moment of healing and cleansing for the poor and the sick and the outcast, and we didn't know how to get there, and we wanted to get there. I don't know if we're going to use Abraham's story. I don't know if putting the post on the market was the Isaac moment or the Hagar moment. I've thought about this a lot. I don't know if we were trying to rush it because we believed it, and so we were just like, well, we're gonna find some way to have this kid. So whether it was one or the other or both, all I know is we wanted what it seems like Abraham wanted. Abraham wanted that promise, and we wanted to move into that promise too. So the short version, maybe we could take the whole episode next week and just talk about this. But the short version was we had a vision of creating a space for young people and families, particular young people and families that don't have access to the things we have access to. I could break those down and kind of bullet point them out, but right now we'll just leave it at that idea. They don't have access to the things we have access to, and we knew we needed some startup capital. We knew that this entity that we had built, the Post Commons, was valuable. So we put it on the market. we thought, look, we'll sell it with some contingencies in place. We'll get some startup capital and we'll start this new work. We don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe it'll just be a little community center where people can connect. We did, it didn't sell. We moved on from it. We decided we're going to just kind of go back to the drawing board. But all in that little purgatorial time, Lindsay and I were sort of designing what we had hoped would be our next big work. And this work is kind of the idea is a multi-use facility that offers play and food and drink and work and fitness and athletics and gathering and music. Think of a food hall and a park and a social competitive space. Think of youth sports. Think of outdoor eating. Think of a cocktail bar at night, a sound stage, a great world-class sound stage where musicians can come and play, outdoor spaces, pickleball, all of this. And we named it the Park in our minds. We filed for an LLC. We, prayed and we found a property that we felt like this was the one that we're supposed to do it at. It's pretty neat experience of searching for that property and put together a pitch deck, just your classic kind of capital raising pitch deck. I thought over the next 2 years, I'm going to try to raise a certain amount of money of for-profit capital, not nonprofit donations. And it's going to take a while. We're going to have to meet with a lot of investors around the country and maybe even do like an online type, what's it called? Like a crowdfunding campaign. But my first step was to sit down with a local brother who has invested in works in the city that we're connected to and just see what he thought about this. Pitch it to him as an idea to both get some mentorship and some critique, but also maybe see if he's interested. And within, I don't know, 2 minutes, 5 minutes,
5 at the most.
Within 5 minutes of our pitch, he funded the whole project and has been super energetic behind it and supportive. About a week later, we went under contract on the property. About 6 weeks later, we closed on the property. About 8 weeks later, we landed our architect. About 2 weeks, now I'll come to where we are now. About 2 weeks ago, we landed our kind of oversight general contractor who's gonna be kind of hold Hugh's hand and a little bit my hand. Hugh's going to be kind of the acting, but our oversight general contractor through this process. And probably within the next 6 weeks, we'll finalize all architectural plans and begin, the first phase of work. So it's moved a lot faster than we thought. In April or May, we thought, maybe by summer of 2027, we'll have the money raised. Maybe sooner, but I knew this was going to be a big one. Like this was going to be a hard project to fundraise on because Alton's not an economical,
You would not go there to make money.
Yeah, not the obvious place. Yeah.
Investors aren't gonna put their money into a place like this. And I will say this, man, this is another conversation because since the park has launched, we've probably started 3 new things because now we're really working with the energy of how can we create pathways for missional entrepreneurs, innovative missional thinkers to create kingdom spaces in their city and work with investors to do this. Donor money is always a potential, but donor money is dropping about as quick as tithes and offerings are in the faith space because impact investors are realizing what we were talking about 14 years ago that these are just bottomless pits. They're not self-sustaining engines, and they're looking for more innovative leaders and innovative ideas to invest in. So whether it's donor advised funds, whether it's capital raising or impact investing, similar to what Muhammad Yunus writes in his book, Building Social Businesses, or I think he has another one called Banking for the Poor or Banks for the Poor. We're trying to sort of pilot some of those pathways in our context locally and in the Brave City story. We want to be able to teach others, and we want to be able to inspire others to use these pathways too. But this thing has moved fast, man. Our project is big. It's bigger than anything either of us have ever done. We truly don't know how we're going to pull it off, which I think makes it even more fun.
Yeah, because that initial funding that Taylor said, we got basically 100% of that first ask. That was just like to
Phase
get
one.
us going, but it's probably only half of what we need, maybe a third of what we'll actually need to build the whole thing out. So there's still a lot of supernatural, like we don't know where it's going to come from type thing, but it's enough to get moving, like anything else. So
yeah, it's enough to, and that's what we thought in the beginning. We thought if we can get phase one funded, which is sort of acquisition of property, acquisition of architect and general contracting, then once that movement happens, once that energy and that kind of that spirit of innovation starts moving, I just believe other people are going to want to come onto the project somehow. So we're in that phase now of going, okay, we've got about half would be the peak, but probably Hugh's right, somewhere between half and a third of what we need to pull the whole project off. And we don't really know what the next steps are. That's what makes it even more interesting, maybe scary, but to be honest, that's what makes it more fun for us, is we're jumping in a pool that we don't know what's in it. We're kind of walking in this new project, this new season that we don't know how it's going to play out. What we do know, and gives us a lot of confidence, is we've always been able to do a lot with a little. God's always kind of created that multiplicative nature of generosity and capital. And so we gotta see how that's going to play out with us. Same as your story, man. But from that, a lot of other startups are happening because the park is a house of brands.
Yep.
So with it being a very large facility, it's basically an entire city block, right?
well, it's actually three blocks combined.
I guess, yeah, when you consider the whole thing. So
yeah.
it's basically 3 city blocks with land for new build, with current facilities that are being restored, and also with facilities that are turnkey that we could move into in a month and start creating life and light and revenue streams on this, large property. We're going to see anywhere from, gosh, I would say 9 to 15 new startups happening. So we're also launching an incubative element to our, like we have a missional incubator, but now we're launching an entrepreneurial incubator that's solely focused on for-profit movement within our ecosystem. That's kind of loosely based on a beautiful family of businesses model out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, called the Zingerman's family of businesses. So we're kind of drawing a little bit of inspiration from them. We're drawing from like 10 years of our work in Birmingham that we created a 501c3 holding company that had a family of businesses, and we've created the same model here in Alton. And you know what? I want to say something too to all you like missional practitioners and dreamers out there. for what it's worth, I was told constantly for 10 to 15 years that none of this would work. I was told by mentors and brothers and sisters and leaders that business and church doesn't mix, that you can't run businesses under 501c3s, that you don't need to have LLCs connected to faith movement, on and on and on. That, uh, thinking through a entrepreneurial lens and the idea of making money in the name of Jesus was going to poison the well. I mean, I'm talking about from people that are regularly devoting their life to business practices within faith work now. Were desperately trying to talk me out of this and tell me that this was a bad idea. And it's not that I didn't listen. It's not that I actually still don't consider the words that they were saying. It's that when you feel like you want to dip your toe in something that you know can alter the kingdom story in your context, sometimes you have to keep some of the criticism at bay and just hold it loosely, but don't disregard it. So let me say those in reverse. Don't disregard it, but hold it loosely, because a lot of it is based on ignorance. A lot of it is based on fear or their own experience. And this has now become the common narrative of missional life is how do we create more quote unquote missional businesses, which Hugh and I are pretty regularly pushing against. We don't think they're missional businesses. We think they're just businesses within the ecosystem of the kingdom that we're uncovering in our city. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that too, because I think some of you out there listening are constantly going to go through these levels of discouragement, and people are afraid of what they don't know. And for me, I don't know about everyone, but for me, 15, 17 years ago, people didn't know what business within church planting looked like in the West. It was a sort of normal practice in overseas contexts when it came to like hiding being a covert missionary. You would go in and maybe start a business, and that's how you learn the language and connect faith with not yet believers or whatever. But here there was a total separation. The only idea of business's mission was you put a Jesus fish on your
enter the Christian Yellow Pages.
Yeah. And this is obviously, if you've read the book, had conversations with us, heard any of our talks on this, as far from what we're talking about as it could possibly be. I would even present the thought to you guys. Maybe you can nuance it better than me, but I'm not even a fan of the idea of like Christian business in general or Christian businessmen. I think we are just devoted followers of the way of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, the ancient story of the church and the scriptures and the people of God, and we practice our faith in every single environment that we live in, whether it's athletics, whether it's our family, where we live, the intentionality of our address, and our everyday kind of work with our hands is totally submitted to that story. So that's where we are. I mean, that was just a rant on what we believe at the end, but where we are right now is in that new season of startup. And I'll end with this, guys. Somebody take it from here, but I just think that ebb and flow never stops. Like that circle of innovation and creating new things is all part of that kind of Luke 10, bring peace, heal the sick, cleanse the leper, cast out demon, bring peace. Peace could also be interpreted as favor, like bring favor upon your work with the city, with those who have influence, with the poor and the lost and the lonely, heal the sick, cleanse the leper, cast out demons. All is part of the startup process.
I like that we really weren't sure what to talk about today, but naturally we talked about what was going on in our lives.
Yep.
And it circles back to the essence. What I love about John, your face was, I can, like, you got a skip in your step again. Like, you can see it, and the work is hard. I mean, day one, you're almost in a brawl with a pit bull. So like, and I'm sure in that little tiny moment, you're like, oh geez, here we go
What
again.
did I get myself into? Yeah.
But the vigor is back. So, if we didn't entitle that last episode, the ram is the work, maybe we do throw
We
it on
didn't.
this one.
The title of it was Money in the Bank or Bread on the Trail.
Okay, well, there we go. This will be the ram is the work. I'm proud to be with brothers that are always in the work. We did expose, though, for all of us. You get in those seasons where you just want the work to end, sell out, sell the business, head to the beach, whatever it is. But if we follow Jesus, he's always at work, right? While we're sleeping, he's at work. So if we follow him, at some point, you've got to come off the vacation and let God speak fresh. The excitement you see on the face, it can be the same look while you're exhausted. Like, it doesn't have to be like while we're exhausted, we can also be really glad that God, like, so like even this one, Taylor and Lindsay are working on this. I'm working on the pizza joint, thinking that's going to be my last work. And then I can hand these young kids everything, and God's preparing another. So it's a good lesson for me too, as an older guy. Like, while I can still grab a hammer, it's a great privilege to get to do that. Like, at the
It's
point we literally stop working, we might as well die, honestly.
and it's an infinite game, and like the gift is to keep being able to play it. And like, and you pointing out the skip in your step, I was actually thinking this throughout when Taylor was talking too. Like, there's like I had a rough year last year. I had some stuff go on, and I know we didn't talk about it a lot on the show or whatever, but like I had a lot go on, and like was carrying some stuff personally, and was getting pretty exhausted, and actually was bowing out of a lot of things, like just taking care of what had to be taken care of for a little season. And I will say, even when the hurricanes came through, there was like that emergency demand for work, taking responsibility for the neighbors was like a gift and a grace to me. And I recognized that. And then just recently, and it's weird because like in the last 2, 3 months, I have had less sleep than any of the months prior, for like by far less sleep. I've eaten way worse because I just no time for like getting the right groceries and eating right. I'm just like, whatever I can do between things, like I'll eat whatever just between. I just like eating worse, sleeping worse, all the things that are bad to do. And I don't want to stay there. Like, by the way, I want to correct for all of that. But I've been in such a red line kind of going. But at the same time, like there's like this apostolic, like there's something in the apostolic where it's like I think when something got to the place where you could manage and coast, there's something that dies or is bored. Like, I'm not here to manage long term. Like, I get a manager in place with the bike shop or whatever. I think there is a need to step away from some of the works that now exist. And what I realize in retrospect, watching me right now, because it's cool you can pick up on that, but for me, it's like crystal clear. Like, I'm like, oh, this is where I belong. And as soon as the thing's like there, it's like I'm gonna need to do it again because there is just something in the DNA that's like I'm so activated by the like call to responsibility and the 0 to 1 kind of startup work or the demands around me that like, and then once that thing's kind of like operational, I think that's where we start to go. And it makes sense why we want to pass it on, but we fool ourselves thinking that's so we can like chill.
Let
But
me tell
chilling, I think, might be deadly. It's like so we can get back to the game.
let me tell a quick story, and you're going to know the details of this. So I'd actually like you to give some of the backstory, but this is more of an example of something that I've been thinking about a lot. So there's a guy in our context that I've been watching pretty closely lately, and I am very moved by his practices. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know him super well, but I do know he's some sort of pastoral figure. Maybe he's a church planter, maybe something. But I've seen this before, and I want to sit down with him and encourage him at some point. But it looks like he's probably launching a new church or something. And he's been coming into the shop a lot, spending time with us. connecting with people. I'm noticing just his love for others, his touches, his servant's heart. He's jumping like behind the counter and saying, "Hey, can I help? Like it looks busy. Can I run food for y'all?" And as I'm watching him, this is no judgment on him at all. I'm watching him more as an example of what I've seen for years and years is the work that he's practicing right now to me is the work. That is the work. That is the life of a Christ man. But what it's been communicated to me through the years in practice is that's the preparation in most missionaries for the work. So they go into a context and they show all of this servanthood and this ministry to prepare to do what they think is the work, which is curate a church service week in and week out. Once that begins to move, they don't have time to actually be missionaries in their context anymore. They don't have time to really connect with people unless it's clearly going to be forward momentum for the work that they're now doing, which is preaching and teaching and managing a church service. And what is so disheartening to me, not about this brother, because this brother's blessing me a ton, but what's so disheartening to me is the thought that this work that he is practicing could just be preliminary in his mind to what is the real work, which is now hosting and managing a church.
Yeah, we will make sure he doesn't make that mistake.
But you know, like the backstory to this, that his heart is pure in this.
Totally.
Like he wants to do this. I'm saying I've seen this so many times. Like
yeah, makes sense.
We could break down all of the terminology, you know, like I remember when one church was starting in my context in Birmingham, and this group of people, they were just gathering every week to pray for the city. And so I wanted to be there. And we weren't going to be a part of their church plant. Never had any intention, but they're praying for our city. They're walking around the streets, like asking for God's peace and favor. Prayer walking's not really my thing, but I'm in. I'll be with you. But once they launched, all of that kind of stopped. That was just the preparation. That was when they were building what is called in church planning world, the launch team. And so now they have their launch team, and now their real focus is curating this experience every week. And so then I was looking around going, well, where's another launch team? Who's the next church plant? Because I want to pray for our city more in this guy's living room. And that felt really energetic for me, you know. So I guess here's where I want to land this is you're not wasting your life, missionary or pastor or apostolic leader, by working your whole life. When we say the ram is the work, it's not that you went to the altar of the Lord and you offered yourself as a sacrifice, and the Lord said, okay, you're going to need to sacrifice for 4 years in undergrad, 2 more years in seminary, and then 4 more years in just gritty ministry work, so that now, after those 10 years, you can do the real work of being like a senior pastor or a comfortable church leader. And that's the real work. I would say that's the deception. The joy and the excitement and the I want to wake up every day is this unknown missionary work that we're called to. That's the only real thing that keeps us going.
We got to go into a meeting right now to start talking about handing over some ownership of some of these businesses. So, which is also a good segue, but good start. Kind of happy we threw away all the cords and the extra cameras, and we ended up here.
I'm not
glad we got.
I'm not
to just.
I'm still
talk
mad
about what's going on. John, cheers to you. And
Cheers, man. It's so good to be back with you guys, and yeah, we'll do it again soon. You guys get with it.
Peace out.
See you, bud.